Hi, my name is Taya and I'm here to teach you a little bit about art history. In today's lecture, we will be going over the extraordinary life of an incredible artist. Salvador Dali is known for his wacky and surreal lifestyle as well as his artistic creations. Let's get into it. Salvador Dali was born May 11th, 1904 in Catalonia, Spain. His father was a lawyer and notary. His mother, Felipa, was a huge supporter of her son's artistic endeavors. Just 9 months earlier, his older brother, also named Salvador, died from gastroenteritis. Throughout his life, Dali was haunted by his brother, stating, "We resembled each other like two drops of water, but we had different reflections. He was probably the first version of myself, but conceived too much in the absolute." We see images of his brother through his later works, such as Portrait of My Dead Brother in 1963. The artist also had a younger sister, Anna Maria. In 1949, she published a book titled Dali as Seen by His Sister. His childhood friends included two future FC Barcelona footballers, and the trio would play football together during holidays at the Catalan resort town of Cadaqués. In 1916, he attended the municipal drawing school at Figueres, and he discovered modern painting during his summer vacation with the family of Ramon Piquet, a local artist. In the following year, Dali's father would host an exhibition of his son's charcoal drawings in their family home. He then made his exhibition debut in 1918 at the Municipal Theatre, a site he would return to decades later. The Pickett family introduced Dali to Futurism in 1921, and his uncle began providing him with books and magazines on Cubism and contemporary art. In February 1921, Dali's mother passed from uterine cancer when the artist was 16 years old. Of his mother's death, Dali said it was the greatest blow I had experienced in my life. I worshipped her. I could not resign myself to the loss of a being on whom I counted to make invisible the unavoidable blemishes of my soul. His father went on to marry Dali's mother's sister. It is said Dali was okay with the pair as he greatly respected and loved his aunt. In 1922, Dali started a student's residency in Madrid and studied at the San Fernando Royal Academy of Fine Arts. The artist was already eccentric, gaining attention with his long hair, sideburns, knee-high breeches, stockings, and coat that were reminiscent of the 19th century English aesthetes. During this time, he became friends with Pepin Bello, Luis Buñuel, Federico Garcia Lorca, and other avant-garde artists. It is said Lorca had feelings for the artist, but Dali rejected his sexual advances. The pair would remain extremely close friends until the poet's death in 1936 at the beginning of the Spanish Civil War. In 1922, he began a lifelong friendship with Prado Museum, in which he states was incontestably the best museum of old paintings in the world. Dali would spend Sunday mornings studying works by great masters. He states, "This was the start of a monk-like period for me, devoted entirely to solitary work. Visits to the Prado where, pencil in hand, I analysed all of the great masterpieces, studio work, models, research." He began experimenting with Cubism, though he became more acquainted with Dada and Futurism. During this time, he also read Freud, which became huge influences on his later works. He exhibited 11 works in a group exhibition in 1925, 7 of which were Cubist, and 4 a more realistic style. Critics praised his work. He held his first solo exhibition in Barcelona in November of 1925 before his exposure to surrealism. It gained critical and commercial success. Dali met Pablo Picasso on a trip to Paris in 1926, an artist whom he revered. Picasso had heard great things about Dali from fellow Catalan artist Joan Miró. Over the coming years, Miró and Picasso would greatly influence the development of his own style. From 1927, his works began being inspired by surrealism. Heavily inspired by Freud, Dali introduced sexual imagery and symbolism to his work. His dialogue on the beach, Unsatisfied Desires, was rejected from the Barcelona Autumn Salon because it was not fit to be exhibited in a gallery habitually visited by the numerous public little prepared for certain surprises. The scandal was covered by the press and resulted in a popular magazine to publish an interview with the artist. He continued exhibiting and attracted a lot of attention, with a mixture of praise and debate from critics who were confused and noted inconsistency within his work. By this point, the artist had grown a neatly trimmed mustache, which would become an icon of his character. In 1929, Dali collaborated with Luis Buñuel, a surrealist film director, with his main contribution being assisting on writing the script, though later he claimed to have helped with filming, but this is not corroborated by his peers. In August of that year, he met his lifelong muse and future wife Gala, a Russian immigrant 10 years older than him. At the time of their meeting, she was married to Paul Eluard, a surrealist poet. Dali continued exploring themes of sexual anxiety and unconscious desire in his works, and in his first Paris exhibition, André Breton described Dali's works as the most hallucinatory that has been produced up until now. This exhibition at Goemon's gallery was a commercial success, but critics still debated. This year, he officially joined the surrealist group and was praised for what was later called his paranoid critical method. His father disapproved of his relationship with Gala and his connection to the surrealists, and their relationship began to break. The final straw for his father was a work shown in Barcelona with an inscription stating, "Sometimes I spit for fun on my mother's portrait." His father was outraged and demanded a public recant of the quote. At his refusal, Dali was thrown out of his paternal home and his father disinherited him. Dali and Gala would rent a fisherman's cabin the following summer, which he would eventually buy. They would enlarge the cabin over the years by buying neighbouring homes, resulting in his beloved villa. Eventually, the father and son regained their relationship. The Persistence of Memory was painted in 1931, which is now his most famous work. The work attracted a lot of attention in following exhibitions in 1931 and 1932. One critic described Dali as paranoid of geometrical temperament. He exhibited in New York for the first time and was met with commercial and critical success. The New Yorker critic praised his precision and lack of sentimentality, describing his works as frozen nightmares. Gala and Dali civilly married in 1934 and remarried in 1958. Gala was not only a muse, but Dali's business manager, assisting in keeping their extravagant lifestyle afloat. Both would engage in affairs, though were secure in their primary relationship. Gala would continue to be painted adoringly by Dali, no matter their age. On his first visit to America in 1934, Dali exhibited at the Julian Levy Gallery and delivered 3 lectures at the Museum of Modern Art and other venues. At their farewell party, hosted by the heiress Carice Crosby, Dali wore a glass case on his chest presenting a brassiere, and Gala appeared as a woman giving birth through her head. Due to his ambiguous political position in an increasingly left surrealist group, Dali was subjected to a trial in which he narrowly avoided expulsion from the group. In 1936, he hosted a lecture in the London International Surrealist Exhibition in which he wore a deep-sea diving suit and a helmet. He arrived leading Russian wolfhounds and carrying a billiard cue before having to unscrew the helmet in order to breathe. He stated, "I just wanted to show that I was plunging deeply into the human mind." That year, he exhibited at the Alex Reid and Leffler Gallery in London, showing 29 paintings and 18 drawings. The Daily Telegraph critic stated, "These pictures from the subconscious reveal so skilled a craftsman that the artist's return to full consciousness may be awaited with interest." He continued exhibiting around the United States, gaining large audiences and press coverage, even being featured on the cover of Time magazine. Dali was supported by Zodiac from 1933, a group of admirers who contributed monthly payments for a painting of their choice. Dali's main patron was Edward James, who supported him for 2 years. After learning of Lorca's execution by national forces during the Spanish Civil War in 1936, Dali would reference the friend in his works for the remainder of his life. In 1939, at the New York World's Fair, Dali unveiled his Dream of Venus Surrealist Pavilion. The area featured sculptures, mermaids, statues, and live nude models in costumes of fresh seafood. After the victory of Franco in the Spanish Civil War, Dali wrote to Louis denouncing socialism and Marxism. He praised Catholicism, resulting in their friendship breaking off. The next month, Dali was expelled from the surrealist group, resulting in many other surrealists breaking their relations with the artist. Dali was in France when World War II broke out in 1938. They escaped by obtaining visas from the Portuguese consul following the German invasion, crossing into Portugal and sailing to New York. Dali and Gala would live between New York and California for 8 years. During 1940 and 1941, Dali worked on his autobiography and paintings at Hampton Manor. He announced the death of surrealism and a return of classicism during his exhibition in 1941. In his catalogue, Dali announced his return to form, control, and structure. Despite this, critics did not see a change to his works, and sales were disappointing. An exhibition with Joan Miro at the Museum of Modern Art in 1941 grew his reputation in America, resulting in a tour of 8 American cities. By 1942, his autobiography, The Secret Life of Salvador Dali, was published. Time magazine's critic called it one of the most irresistible books of the year. In his exhibitions, Dali continued attacking the surrealist movement. The critical response was negative. In 1946, Dali worked with Walt Disney and John Hench on an unfinished animated film, Destino. His works began reflecting an increasing interest in atomic physics. His later works would be in collaboration with a mathematician. He released 50 Secrets of Magic Craftsmanship in 1948, which included anecdotes, polemists, and practical painting advice. Dali and Gala moved back to their renovated fisherman's cabin in 1948. They would spend the remaining 3 decades of their life there, with winters spent in New York. The artist caused further outrage by scolding Franco and his public support for his regime. Even Pablo Picasso refused to mention Dali's name or acknowledge him for the rest of his life. Dali was outraged by his sister's book Salvador Dali, Seen by His Sister, as he believed passages were negative towards his wife, resulting in him breaking ties with his family. When his father died a year later, he learnt that he was virtually disinherited in his will. During a 2-year legal battle over paintings and drawings, Dali left his family home and was accused of assaulting a notary. Dali embraced Catholicism, introducing religious iconography and themes in his works. He sought to synthesize Christian iconography with images inspired by nuclear physics. His interest in science and math manifested in images of DNA and rhino horns during the mid-1950s. He believed rhino horns signified defined geometry due to its logarithmic spiral. He experimented with foreshortening, the Bullitus technique, and holography. Dali purchased a castle for Gala in 1968, where she would retreat for weeks at a time. The pair decided Dali could not visit her without written permission. He began suffering from depression and failing health as a result of his fears of abandonment. By 1980, his health had significantly deteriorated, and he was treated for depression, addiction, and Parkinson-like symptoms, which included a severe tremor in his right arm. Gala died in 1982 at age 87. Dali moved to the castle after her death. He revealed his last painting, The Swallow's Tail, in May 1983, which was heavily influenced by René Thom's mathematical catastrophe theory. Critics questioned his ability to create such an image with such a severe tremor. His depression continued to worsen, and his refusal of food led to malnourishment in 1984. After a fire in his bedroom, Dali was hospitalized in August with severe burns. In 1986, Dali received a pacemaker before being hospitalized with heart failure 2 years later. 2 months after this, he died of cardiac arrest at the age of 84. Thank you so much for watching today's lecture. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos just like this.